Telco, so telecommunications, and obviously everybody is on their phone a lot at the moment, or certainly on a screen. And Matt, you and I had a really interesting conversation about this earlier on, didn't we? About some households really sort of running out of bandwidth because you have people working from home. If you're in a family, depending on age of kids, you've either got kids homeschooling on Google classes, or perhaps older kids, they might be on some sort of gaming apps, and then Netflix, etc. So there's that side of things in terms of consumer demand certainly being there. Matt, what are your thoughts on what's happening in telco at the moment? What should marketers be considering, I suppose, both from a planning perspective, but also from a messaging perspective? And where do you think things are going to head in this next sort of, 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, and like you said, was a really interesting conversation earlier. I think what we're quickly starting to appreciate is how poor the internet and broadband network is in Europe, UK, and the US compared to China, Korea, Japan, where they just wouldn't be having these bandwidth issues of maybe two parents trying to work from home, a teenager on Fortnite, and someone else on TikTok. But so I think what we're seeing actually within telco is different uses of, so for people who sell bundles and for families who use bundles, different uses of those bundles. So people using technically much less 3G, 4G data, although whether people are having to bolster home bandwidth by doing so, we'll see. But people relying much more on their home broadband and on their home TV packages. So I think we're previously looking at a world where people were much more reliant on their mobile network when they were out of home, and now having to rely on their home network. And so I think if I was in a situation where I was having to, as a consumer, having to bolster my home bandwidth with extra 4G with using mobile devices, then I'd be pretty hacked off straight away with my broadband provider, and I'd be looking at possibilities to change. So I think there is the big risk and big opportunity here for some of those telco broadband, home broadband providers, where customers could be really reevaluating their telco packages right now, could be really looking to change, could be looking to up their broadband bandwidth. But at the same time, when there's lots of people changing and lots of people in the market, that offers a big opportunity for people to be gaining that change, for people to be gaining that market share. So it could be a big crunch point. And I guess the big question you'd have to ask yourself as a marketer within telco is, do we want to support our existing customers with maybe offers to stay on, or upgrading paying to upgrade their packages, or offering them maybe free content, free Netflix packages, what used to be things like BT Sport and Sky Sports? Or do we go after that acquisition market, and are we aggressive in that acquisition market? You're going to be unlikely to do both, so there's probably a big decision you need to be making about whether you go after acquisition or you go after retention. And then I think the other message is that link between brand building and price. Again, if you decide to be quite aggressive in that acquisition market, it can be quite there can be a big case to be made for offering lots of price-led packages. First 6 months are half price, or maybe extra data for the first 6 months, of those kind of things. But we also know that, back to some of the other conversations we've been having, you need to maintain a strong brand through that, so that people aren't just buying you on price, because otherwise you're just creating a perfect economy where people only buy who the cheapest is, and you can actually use your brand to be able to differentiate and provide a differential within that market. I think a good and an interesting case was BT, who said, unlike John's example earlier, that they didn't want to do the generic "we're here for you" COVID type messaging, wanted to maintain true to their purpose of helping get Britain more tech savvy, more data savvy, and use this time to be able to advertise and grow that purpose. And if they can grow that purpose, and if people are linking it back towards who BT are as a brand, then that could put them in a good stead for the long term. But yeah, I think those two, it's almost that decision tree of retention versus acquisition, and then within acquisition, price and aggressive promotion versus brand building, that will be the fundamental questions that telco brands will have to be asking themselves.